probably at the start I did feel the pressure to be the rah-rah, like bring the girls in, like give them a spray, tell them how good they are, like in a really group situation, or speak up a lot in team meetings. I felt a lot of pressure to do that early on, and I resisted it, and it made me feel like I wasn't good, like I wasn't doing what I was meant to do. Probably over the last couple of years, like I just accept like that's not who I am.
This podcast is brought to you by Woodside Energy, helping young players develop and grow as the official sponsor of the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Dubya. I'm Caitlin Bassett, and with me is my cross-coding friend, Rosie Deegan. Well, this week we've got a real treat for you. Captain of the West Coast Eagles, Emma Swanson, joins us, and she has had such an incredible journey. She's just played her 50th West Coast game and she's captained every single one of them. And we had such a great discussion about her leadership journey. She's an introverted leader, so really leaning into that authentic leadership and the challenges, I guess, that she's faced along the way with Eagles performance. What did you love?
For me, just to shout her out, she was a little 17-year-old me and she was my leader. And I think the stuff and the takeaways she said today are something that I've carried with me in trying to be a leader as well. And I think just what she says in this podcast is just really telling about different styles of leadership and how they can be effective in relationships. So I think she's one of the best leaders I've ever met. So it's a good chat, yeah.
We don't like to play favourites, but this is probably our favourite chat so far. Enjoy. Please thank Emma Swanson. Welcome to Dubya.
Thank you for having me.
Woo.
Nice intro.
Okay, we've got to talk about the Derby start off with. Obviously being your 50th Eagles game and 50 games as captain, there would have been lots of messages, lots of videos. I saw a few interviews that you did, and I guess looking back now, sinking in, does it just feel like, what does it mean to have played 50 games for one club and to captain all those 50?
Yeah, I mean, you guys know me. It's extremely uncomfortable having my freaking face on T-shirts.
Dude, the T-shirts were.
I loved it.
The social media, I delete my Instagram most of the week anyway. So last week, and then I felt guilty for deleting it because I wasn't getting back to people. Oh, it was a nightmare, honestly. I was just so glad to get out there when the game started because, yeah, I just wanted to sort of move past that, but extremely grateful for all the support as well. But, yeah, it's funny. I'm a fan of the men's game. So when we talk about 50 games, I sort of my initial reaction is like, oh, that's not really that many. Like you're sort of celebrating 150, 200 club games when you're talking men's footy, but when you sit back and reflect, like the first year we played 7 games. So to notch them up over a period of 6 years, the flip side of that, like if a male player plays most of the games for 6 years, they're looking at sort of, 150, close to 200 games. So, I'm extremely grateful for the club for having me for so long and believing in me and bringing me over here from Sydney. And, I've loved it. I love the footy club. I love the girls that we play with. So, it's been a good 50. I hope there's 50 more.
Yeah, well, I feel like there is. You're in a new position this year, and I heard you talking about how being in a different role is uncomfortable at times, but you're learning. Like, what's that been like? Has that given you a mental refresh, I guess, after playing so long?
Yeah, it definitely has. Like, I don't know what it is about football, but people like look at the midfield as this like epitome of footy. And
all the gun players play in the midfield, don't they?
Yeah. But it's just like when you look at what happens, like forward line as well, like I've dabbled a little bit in the forward line and like so much respect for them because forward of the footy, like there's so much you're relying on to go right, to get the ball and to get your opportunity. That's out of your control.
Well. Yeah.
But the back is just like they all 3 line groups, like I just have such a big respect for now that I've actually played. I actually call myself a blooded defender now, but it's just such a different game back there. And for 6 or 7 years I've played in the mid. A lot of the games played below your knees. So that's your craft. Like week to week, that's what you're working on. When you go back, like a lot of it's in the air. And I had no idea what I was doing. Like ball position, like the positioning of your body, the ball drop, things that I've never even really like consciously thought of before. I just felt like such an amateur, which has been awesome. I've loved
the captain feeling like an amateur. That is incredible.
It's so much fun though. Like the girls back there, and you just create like this really tight knit group because when you make a mistake as a defender, like it's a goal. Whereas in the mid, like I'm not downplaying what the mids and the forwards do, but you make a mistake and it kind of like the game flows on a little bit. But when you make a mistake as a defender, like it's a goal and your face is on broadcast next to the girl that you're playing on who just kicked the goal. So the pressure's high and you just create like this team within a team, and we're super close. We call ourselves a backpack, and I've loved spending some time down there this year.
The backpack is pretty young. You're the oldest and you're not even that old. You're not even 30 yet. What's it like relying on younger players around you to kind of help you and tell you where to position? Because you're a 3-time All-Australian, so it's not like you're an inexperienced footballer.
It's funny, like I don't think so. Someone like Beth Schilling, for example, like I don't think she probably realizes like what she's doing for my game. Like on Thursday mornings, Thursdays is our full day at the club, and I live down south, so I try and beat the traffic, but I get in there nice and early. The first thing I do is I go through Sheila's like edits on the computer and watch like how she positions her body and the steps she takes to make intercept marks, and like she's doing so much for my career, and she's a 3rd or 4th year player, I think, for us. And she's still just building into her potential. But to be learning off different players, younger players, players who all have different strengths, like I've loved it. It's completely re-energized how I feel playing footy, and I really hope I stay there, and I hope I stay there for a long time.
Oh, you want to stay in the back line?
Yeah, I do. I sort of like pre-season game we played St Kilda, and I was like at half time, I think there was like a penciled shift from me from half back to mid. And I just went to Days after. I'm like, can I stay? Can I stay? And then I realised like not many players ever get to choose where you play. And I sort of pushed the envelope a little bit with Days for a few weeks. Like I really want to play back. And she's like, no, you've trained midfield all pre-season. Like it's a personnel thing. Like we just need to weigh up like where we're at, see what happens with injuries. And then, I've managed to just convince her to let me stay there, and hopefully I play my role each week.
But with because you're very good at hitting targets from the back line, that's like kind of essential. Because like you want to try set up, as you said, you're struggling to get the forward connection. But that starts in the back line and getting it past the wall that the obviously offensive team's trying to build up. So like you in the back line's pretty elite to get the kick over it.
Yeah, well, I think like having good ball users down back is really important. And we've always had that because Belinda Smith's phenomenal ball user. Charlie Thomas is probably the best in the comp. So we've had a couple of really good ball users down there. And I'm still sort of learning like the offensive game from the back line, because you obviously have to defend first. I think I played 6 years. Everyone probably knows this. I probably played 6 years and never defended once as a midfielder. So
I don't defend in basketball either.
Hey, I never defended in netball. I don't know what you're talking about.
Something completely
Defense is not fun. It's very hard. That's why only special people do it.
Yeah.
But no, it's definitely a learning curve.
Tell us about Daisy coming to Perth. You guys played together at one stage over in Melbourne. You then played against each other. What's it been like now playing underneath her?
Yeah, so we played. So 2013 was the first exhibition, AFL sanctioned exhibition game. So Melbourne and Western Bulldogs both had teams, and they just drafted, I think probably 20, maybe 23 players each team. 50 players from around the country just got drafted in one night, and it was just kind of like a schoolyard pick. Like Western Bulldogs pick one, Melbourne
she
pick
looks
one.
good.
Yeah.
You'd hate to be the last one.
I know, right? Not get picked.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're the only one who's put up for the draft and get picked.
No, that would be pretty bad. But I think I was maybe 17, 18, and Days was pretty sure she was number one pick. I'm almost certain she was. Maybe double check that. But so we both played for Melbourne from 2013 to 2016. So it didn't have I wouldn't say we had a heap to do with each other, just the nature of the games were like you play once a year. You meet in Melbourne for a week, the week prior for a camp, and you just play one game a year. So we've definitely played more football against each other since AFLW started. Cross paths a fair bit through the midfield, and it was awesome to hear that she was coming over to be the head coach. There was a little bit I'm super competitive, and there was a little bit.
I've seen you play. Come on.
I had to kind of let this So a lot of our girls are quite young, right? So they've seen. Some of them haven't even played against Days, so they've sort of seen Days as this role model, which she absolutely is. I sort of was the other end of seeing her as the competition, and we've been belted by Melbourne over the last couple of years, and it hasn't been nice. And you don't like people who belt you, so I just didn't like her, to be honest. She knows this. We've laughed about this before, but she's come over, and I had to let go of all this competition. There's one in pre-season we did this swim. And I'm fresh off hip surgery. All I can do is swim. So I'm I've been swimming for a while. I should be all right. Go down, swim with all the girls. And Days comes, and she's ridden 40 kilometres to get there, jumps in the ocean, and me and her she's not racing me, I'm racing her. Like,
Yeah,
she's
it's
fine.
in your head.
Yeah, and I'm like, I must beat her.
This is huge.
I must beat her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, she's the head coach. When we're actually on the same team now. So, but no, she's been awesome.
It must be so hard to put those feelings aside and go, okay, now I can share my weaknesses with you. I can really open up because you want to be the best player you can be to help your team succeed. I guess when she came into that role, you were existing captain at the club. Did you find that a little bit of a threat? Did you find that challenging? Were you nervous that maybe you weren't going to be the right fit for what she wanted with the direction of the club?
Yeah, it's a funny one because I feel like I have been in that situation a few times. So we've had 4 coaches over 6 years. So it wasn't a new feeling for me to have a new coach come in, be the existing captain and have the sort of thoughts in my head as I don't know if this coach is going to see me as the right person or whether they're going to want something different. I feel like by the 4th time, so that's when Days came in, I was like an expert at it. And I just sort of just keep trying to just be myself and just if you're – my theory is if you're just authentically yourself, you live as close as you can to the club values and your own values, nothing really else can go wrong. And if you're the captain, you're the captain. If you're not,
and you can't
you're
really
not.
be disappointed if like the person you've put forward is actually like yourself.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
If you're like changing yourself to fit like Daisy's image or Mickey's image and all that type of image, then you're getting disappointed because you've changed your whole.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's I mean, in the past, like I've been challenged with that, and it's exhausting. Like if you're not yourself, it's pretty hard to sustain that.
It's a tough skill.
A long period of time. So. By the time Days had come in, we've sort of been through like 3 or 4 coaches and, I was just happy to just be myself and hope that she understood that we're both different people. And I know that she was a highly successful captain of Melbourne, but we both lead in different ways and that's okay. And I was happy to just be myself. And if that was who the girls wanted to lead the club, then that's a bonus. And if not, I'd probably not really do too much differently, to be honest.
Did you always have aspirations to be a captain? I know some people grow up and they're like, I want to lead this team. Other people, captaincy falls upon them because of the way that they play or develop. Like for you, did you always have the dream to lead?
Probably not like I'm quite an introvert like naturally and probably not an extremely social. I sort of just see myself, I'm an island, like I'm happy in my own company and I probably the thought of what I thought was leadership and captain makes me feel really uncomfortable. I think over time I've just sort of made it my own and made it something that I do feel comfortable doing. And obviously there's things that make you uncomfortable at times and you have to do things and have conversations with people that you don't exactly like having. But I've sort of over time just made it my own due to the fact that I probably, not that I didn't want it, like it's an extremely big honour. But I don't think my life or I wouldn't have enjoyed it any less if I wasn't the captain or anything like that. Like it's been an extremely big honour to lead the past players, the current players, and such a great footy club. But I've sort of had to make it my own a little bit.
What did you think the ideal leader looked like and why did you not fit into that idea?
It's funny because I think a lot about this, like, I don't know, and this is me just talking like my opinion, but since like social media's come in and we're getting so much more coverage of the personnel behind sporting people in particular, we're getting all this access to what we think is great leadership and sport, like they trend so fast and you see it in, like you see Craig McRae, for example, coaches Collingwood to a premiership and then everyone's like, oh, that's what the ultimate relationship guy, like that's what a good leader is now. And like it can change really, really quickly. And I think there's things that we've all learned over time about relationships and how to lead. And I think that they hold true, but there's a lot of trends that happen in the industry. I just feel like it's a hard one to try and gauge like what is right and what is wrong. And you really just have to make it your own. And like I said before, like if you lead as close as you can to your own, or if you are as close as you can to your own values and you draw a really hard, strong, fast connection to the club values, which is what most cultures and teams do, there's not really much that can go wrong.
Is it reassuring for you that obviously we were talking that there's been so many past players and new players and movement in the club of different coaches? Is it reassuring to you that every time, even a new group's still picking you as that leader throughout like the last 5 years, like you've been picked as a leader by new groups and new coaches? Like, isn't that reassuring for your leadership that you're probably trending in a pretty good direction with that?
Yeah, if you like, I haven't really thought about it like that before, but yeah, we have had really high list turnover in the last couple of years. So I think 10 last year, a couple of train-ons, I think 14 maybe even the year before. So on a list of 30, like you're looking at a third of the team turning over each time. So yeah, you are building new relationships, and it is something that I sort of go into the new year or that like the next preseason acknowledging that we've got 10 new faces, and it does probably take me a little bit more time than some other people to build proper connections and authentic relationships. So I do sort of go into the year thinking about that and trying to apply myself in those areas. But it is reassuring to know that I've obviously, or hopefully I've done that well enough that the girls feel a connection, and they're confident that I can lead them in the right direction.
Why is building relationships so important when you're leading it in high performance sport? I know training isn't easy. I know losing isn't easy. Like what is it that having that relationship allows you to do as a captain?
I think first and foremost is like if you get to know people, you can ask more of them. And I think that's the main thing. And understanding why people are training and what's going on in their own lives has helped me over time. Like I probably didn't really click onto this until maybe even the last 12 to 18 months, but I probably went through a lot of my leadership journey thinking everyone's like me and everyone's the same and they can just come in here, and I sort of like the discipline and I like the hardness and like I like to push and I like the grind and all those sort of uncomfortable things that a lot of people don't necessarily enjoy. To acknowledge that everyone's different and everyone ticks in a different way and you can still get the best out of everyone and everyone needs to be treated differently. I think that's been the main, I guess that's been the most important thing.
In terms of treating people differently, do you have to treat younger players any differently than you do maybe players who are more experienced? We were talking before about, giving sharp words to players, giving direct feedback. Some players don't like that. In the heat of the battle, you don't have time, though, to go, oh, my God, I've got to sugarcoat it for this player, though, do you?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two different, like when you're talking communication like that, there's on-field communication, which sometimes you just have to accept what you've been given and we all have to just move on. And that's why relationships are so important. If you do happen to snap at someone or yell or someone yells at me, I don't go, oh, geez, they don't like me. It's just like, okay, she's been under the pump and that's just direct feedback. And I hope people see it the same from me. And then there's off-field communication, which is sort of where you've got a little bit more time to understand like, okay, this person likes to be told these things, not in a group situation, face-to-face, over text, give them a call, that kind of thing. So, I guess there's sort of like two realms in communication.
As the introverted leader, do you feel the pressure at times that you have to be out there and loud, or is it actually really refreshing to be able to let people who naturally, you've got other leaders within the group, step up and take those challenges?
Yeah, I probably at the start, and this has just been like a natural progression in my leadership over time, but probably at the start I did feel the pressure to be the rah-rah, like bring the girls in, like give them a spray, tell them how good they are, like in a really group situation, or speak up a lot in team meetings. I felt a lot of pressure to do that early on and I resisted it and it made me feel like I wasn't good, like I wasn't doing what I was meant to do. Probably over the last couple of years, like I just accept like that's not who I am. And that's not, and because I haven't done it and I've been able to be voted in and given the captaincy, I'm not like, oh, I need to be doing this to do it. The girls, I don't know this for sure. I'm hoping that the girls like the fact that I lead in my way and we've got vice captains in Charlie and Bella who are completely different to me and they lead in their way. And then we've got Hosco and Tildy in the lead who round out the leadership group who have completely different strengths to even the three of us as captain and vice captain. So we've got this really well-rounded leadership group and we have had that over the journey. Like it's a different leadership group this year than what we've had in the last couple of years. But it has been really nice to just sort of not relinquish everything, but just go, what is my strength? This is my strength. And Bella's strength is to talk up more in front of the group. Charlie's strength is more like that real genuine care factor. And we can just sort of work really well together and to not have the pressure to be someone who you're not.
Yeah, and it doesn't take anything away from your leadership style when Bella does talk up or Charlie, and it's fantastic, when you get the opportunity to see those players stand up and lead as well, because it's not your job to be everyone's best friend as captain, is it? How do you find that balance between challenging the group and rewarding them? It's okay that someone has a really close relationship with one of the other leaders in the group, doesn't it? It's nothing against what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's never a competition, and that's a hard thing. Is you're wired in sport to compete at all times, and we're competing for our sport. 21 players play. We've got 30 on the list. We've had a couple of injuries, so we've actually got 34. 21 are selected every week. From that 21, only 16 start on the field. We're wired to have this ultra competitive mindset, but when it comes to some things, and particularly leadership and off-field things, at the end of the day, when you step back, we're all on the same team. So the better we all are together, the better we're going to be as a team. And it's probably something that you learn over time. Probably at the start, I am ultra competitive. So probably at the start, when I was young, I used to compare myself to everyone and just be I just want to be better than you. But they're teammates. Now I'm just let's just all be really good together. And it's not a threat when someone else is better at something than what you are, and it's completely okay. And you accept that, and you go if I can stick to my strengths and you stick to yours and you stick to yours, we're going to be a pretty bloody good team. So, it's been something I've learned over time, but definitely not to compare yourself against teammates. Because
it used to be like that. It used to be well, your star player is going to be your leader because obviously they're leading by example because they're the best. Whereas you love seeing this shift away from actually getting the best leader, who there is elements of leading by example, and you're in the back line controlling it, and the way you use the football is then going to lead by example. But it's also you don't have to have 30 possessions to garner the respect of the group anymore, which is a great shift, because I don't think all the time, really the star player is actually the best leader. So,
yeah. It's true. Sometimes, the star player is the star player because they're selfish, because they focus on their own. And that's great, because that is going to drive and lift the team as is. But having that balance between that more emotional intelligence as well, someone that you can connect with, that you can go to when things aren't going well and have those conversations with, is really important. After some challenging years at the club, because it's been amazing this season with Daisy, but it hasn't always been sunshine and roses. What has continued to drive you? What's made you want to continue playing football? Because I can imagine when you're losing so frequently, it can be pretty disheartening. Yeah,
there's definitely a patch there for probably 2 years where we really stunk. It was really challenging, and we had really high list turnover, which every year you sort of, as we were talking about before, if you have a list turnover of 10, it's sort of a third of your group, and I think the highest we did was maybe 14 or 15, which is 50% of your playing group. It's really hard to kick yourself back into the motivation and go, okay, we're building. Whereas I think this last probably 2 years, we've had list progression, but we've sort of got this feeling of we are working towards something, and it is going to come to us because our group is so young. But it's been really challenging. I guess I'm optimistic at the best of times, and you're sort of going, can't get much worse. It's only going to get better. And you just come in and apply yourself. I think the really good thing that we've had is this connection from the playing group off field has been something that's just driven us so much. And probably 2-3 years ago, I would rather be in a losing team with that connection than to be in a winning team without that. So it made the decision really easy to keep pushing yourself, to keep showing up to training, keep showing up to games, because of what we had off the field was so special. And you just you're not crossing your fingers and hoping, you're working really hard towards it. But at some stage it's gonna swing, and you're gonna start getting success, which is, I think we are now starting to see a little bit of that. And we've still got a really long way to go, but. And there's so many factors that are bringing us that progress now. But early on, I think it was the connection that we had off the field was so special that I probably at the time would have rather be losing and have that than be winning and not have that at all.
So there was never a thought of, well, maybe it's my leadership that is causing us to maybe not perform well, or I need to go elsewhere if I want to be successful. Did those things ever cross your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with Michelle Cowan maybe 12 months ago. Oh, geez, we've had 4 coaches. And
big turnover.
We've had 4 coaches, and we're still not seeing the success. And the only really thing that's been consistent throughout the whole time is me. like as captain. So I definitely had those doubts. Like there's absolutely no question about it. Like those doubts come and go throughout your head all the time. But yeah, I think like what I said before about you just sort of have to stay true to your values and the club values and keep doing it. And at the end of the day, I'd probably be doing what I do now without the captaincy anyway. So you got to sort of take that pressure off your shoulders. I don't think it's me. I hope it's not. But yeah, I think those doubts definitely do come.
You've told me you don't want to leave the game without a premiership. Is that what you consider as the ultimate success? And is that what drives you to continue? I guess you're experiencing a new position now. You got a new lease in life and you guys are performing. You said there's multiple factors aligned to that, but is that kind of what you're holding up as I can't walk away unless I have that premiership?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I struggle to think like not everyone gets to win one. And that's definitely like at the forefront of my mind is like there's so many things that have to go right for you to even get the opportunity to win one. And you could be the hardest worker in the game and it doesn't entitle you to a premiership. And that's the vulnerability that you play with when you come into the game. So like that's definitely at the forefront of my mind, but I struggle to think how I could walk away from the game without one. And that's like in the trenches at the moment, like that's how I feel. But I mean, everyone's okay. Like eventually you're going to finish up playing. If you don't have a premiership, you're going to think of all the great moments and relationships that you built and connections and great moments that you've had. So like I'm sure I'll survive and I'll be fine. But yeah, at the moment I really struggle to think how I could walk away without a premiership.
And that's what drives you when things are hard, when things are tough, when you know, are injured, when challenges come your way. That's what's kind of driving you is like, no, I'm going to keep pushing because there's something I still haven't achieved because you've achieved so much already in the sport. All Australians, you're club champion. Is this kind of like the final box for you to tick?
Yeah, for sure. I think I often think so. Someone told me about 10 years ago the stories, like what are the stories, or they asked me like what would the stories be that you tell your kids? And I'm like, I don't know, like whatever. Now I'm like, we're having a baby. So Andrea, my partner's pregnant and we're having a baby like this, that comment to me, like that question was asked. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, like that actually makes so much sense. And you never talk about, like, I don't think I would tell my kids about the games that you played bad or the games you played good. Like you don't sit around the dinner table and talk. And my dad's played sport his whole life and he never sits there and goes, oh, I played terribly in this game or this game I had 30 and kicked 2 or like you tell the stories about the connections you make and the team success you have. So probably in the last like 6 to 12 months that question's really rung true. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true. You tell stories about the people that you meet, how they make you feel and the team success you have. So yeah, I want to have a story to tell and hopefully it's one with a big silver cup.
If you think that the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy is only about footy, think again. It's also about giving young people the opportunity to realise there is the possibility to be great on and off the field. It's about helping young players develop and grow, and as the official NGA partner, Woodside is supporting this dream from grassroots to greatness. Growing Freo's pool of talent to feed the AFLW and AFL, and always cheering our next generation on. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy. I totally get that as well. The amount of sacrifice that you're making, the time, the energy. I know you're balancing being a firefighter as well. Like you actually want to legitimise that with like, this is the reason why I did it. It's because of this.
Hard.
Like
yeah.
It's not just, you know, because we won more games than ever that season. Like it's to be able to say like, this is a tangible reason I said no to going to my friends' weddings and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And like what it does for your family as well. Like our families, so there's 34 of us on the list. Like our families are giving so much. So it's not just about the 34 and I think we've got about 20 staff in the program. Like there's about 50 of us. It's not just about us 50. Like we all have families who give so much into us as well. And like they would love to hold the cup just as much as we would. Like you're doing it not just for the playing group, but you're doing it for all the people who have supported you. So it's the ultimate reward for the sacrifice and the choices you make. But yeah, I'm hopeful we get there. It definitely does drive me.
Oh, I feel like you guys, what we've seen this year, it's really exciting to think about the future of the club and the future of the sport in general. And we've seen now every single club has an AFLW team attached to it. What's it like being a part of that environment and how has that feeling changed? Because I guess when you guys were fresh in, it might have felt a bit awkward rocking up to training and being like, hi guys, like we're going to join you in the gym or this is our, you know, facility now too.
Yeah. Well, I was at what year did you come to the Giants?
I came to Giants. I did 2019.
2019. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So we'd been there since 2017, and it was like the Giants are a fantastic club. Like I love them, and I love what they're about and the way that they're ran. And it's just like this almost like country family football club feel. But I won't lie. Like when we got there, it was like awkward because these, like in particular, the men in the program have never been at football clubs that had women's programs and women's teams, like not even their ammo teams. Or,
it never happened. Yeah.
It just never happened.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like this, like, I felt like a guest in the footy club. And it took a little bit of time to break down like those barriers. The Eagles have done it fantastically. And I think a lot of it is based around, so when the team came in, so Eagles got the license 2020, they moved into the new facility at probably the end of 2019.
They did. I set up the laptops.
So we got you to
That's why they don't work.
I got my little, I was never good at that.
So when we moved into that facility, it was 2019. End of 2019.
Yeah.
The men were moving into the facility at the same time, and I think the facility has a lot to say for the way that we were all just kind of integrated because it was ours, and like they weren't there before us. We were all just kind of there at the same time, which definitely helped break down those barriers. And then over time, you get these new guys who are drafted into the team. So Harley Reid gets drafted in. We've had a women's team for 6 years before he comes to the club. So he's never been in an AFL club that doesn't have a women's team. So over time, it's eventually, like that sort of uncomfortableness or the fact that you feel like a guest at your own club has fizzled out and it's just become our club now. And the club's done a fantastic job of making us all feel really welcome.
I remember my brother played for Waffle Eagles and the girls were training with him. And I remember even him as a male player, he'd never played with girls before.
Yeah.
And he's doing these contests with girls and they're lace out hitting targets and he's coming home to me and like, Eagles are looking really good. And so it's just like a change and like he's had a sister who's played footy, but for him to see a program and train with girls
alongside it,
and it just garners that respect if he's like, they're doing like exactly what we are and they're killing it. Yeah. So I think like once you have the players start thinking, that's like top down effect. Like you have AFL players being like, no, these girls are really insane. They work really hard. Then the fans that are big fans of the West Coast Eagles men's team going like, well, if Nick Natanui or if the captain of the club, Oscar Allen's going to the women's football games, like he's seeing the brand of football they're playing and singing all the time.
Yeah.
Kind of is that flow down effect. You're
definitely, because I think we've seen it a little bit with Sydney Swans last year in particular. Like their men's program just lapped up and got around the girls so much. Like they were there at every game. Like they'd have 20 players there, all sitting together, guard of honour, in the change rooms after the wins. Like, and then from the outside, if you're a member or a fan of the Sydney team and you're sort of struggling to get around women's footy, but you see their men's players really embracing it, you're going, oh, this is cool. Like I'm enjoying this and I can embrace it as well. So I think what you're saying is right. Like once you sort of get the men on board, they have such a big influence and such a big pull, particularly with members, that I think it just helps the women's program naturally.
There's been a few challenges in AFLW this season. Condensed fixturing has started. Some of the grounds have come under. On the weekend there was a big hole in one of the ground and it was flooded.
I saw that.
Yeah, like how have you found? Because I remember the first season you started, you had no facilities. There was no change rooms. Like it's been pretty rapid, the progression of bringing the girls on board. But how much further do things need to go? And from your perspective, like what do you want to see the league improve on?
It's really hard because like what you're saying is right. So the first year, 2017, the Giants, we got changed in the players' lounge. And
as you do.
It just happened, but we were just so happy to be there. And it's really hard to maintain this like mindset of like, no, we need to keep striving for what is right and what's equitable when I'm just kind of really grateful to be here. And it's funny, like the younger girls come in, they do such a good job and like you could maybe label it as entitlement and the way that they're like, oh, we deserve better. Sometimes it makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm like, oh, but this is better than what we had. But better than bad doesn't mean good. And it's really hard sometimes to go, oh, yeah, but, like when I first started, we got changed in the players' lounge and
now
like,
look at us.
Now look at us. Like, let's just be happy to be here. And it's like, well, no, what they're doing is really good. Like, they're the ones that are changing the game because they're coming in, they're going, that's not good enough. We deserve this. The men get this. Why don't we? While it's really uncomfortable for the older players who've been around for so long and seen where the games come from, you kind of just jump on the back of that and let them drive. They have a better sort of understanding of what we should deserve and what we don't. But I think the way that AFL is running at the moment, running the W at the moment, like the condensed fixturing, and this is just personal opinions. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for this, but the condensed fixturing is like, you had to do it to understand whether it's good or not. I think when we saw the amount of injuries that came through, and not necessarily, I don't know if the condensed fixturing caused more injuries.
There'd be some arguments for
if you get
them
like
doing
with
it.
the concussion thing, like you're just missing more games. So we had Sasha do a hammy and probably miss an extra game than what she should have, and then Jade Britton did, I think, what did she have, adductor or something, and then missed probably an extra game than what she should have. Or she had concussion, missed an extra game than what she could have. Bushy had the adductor, like probably just missing more games, and in such a short season already, like I don't know if it's the right way to go. But I definitely am not opposed to playing midweek footy. So I hope that the comp goes somewhere where we can explore how we can overlap more with the men and play potentially. I mean, the AFL could have full monopoly on the TV during
every
winter,
night of the week.
every
Imagine
single
that.
night of the week.
What about double headers? Do you like the idea of a double header or not?
I think they have their place, like maybe like a marquee game each weekend. I don't know if I'd really like it every single game. So like I don't know if I'd love to just tack onto the back of the men's program and just play their fixturing and just sort of be the curtain raiser is probably how it would be seen. I really like playing at the community grounds, and as much as we do have the ground issues sometimes, the feel at Leederville on the weekend, excuse me, with 6,000 odd people, like it's just a fantastic atmosphere.
So would you rather play there and have that than play at Optus?
I think I would, yeah. And again, that's just my personal opinion.
Clip
I hope
it.
I don't
Clip
get
it.
in trouble.
Get her in trouble.
But I love it's a different market, because I like men's footy's fantastic. I don't want to talk that down, but holy moly, like the games go for 3 hours. You're sitting in a chair. It's not always the most comfortable. There's not much for kids to do, like to take young kids to a men's game of footy.
And there's a lot of like
so
drinking and
long.
older people that you're like, and swearing and stuff like that, where I feel
Absolutely.
like
Whereas I think
AFLW.
it's so family friendly.
Yeah.
Like you can bring your picnic blanket, you can sit on the hill, there's face painting, there's bouncy castles, there's food trucks. It's just hitting that different market. And for families of young kids, like I couldn't think of a better place to bring your family for a day out. Because I don't know, I remember going to men's games as a young kid, and like we'd have to be bribed to sit down long enough, and halftime used to feel like it went for so long, and the games were just so long, and they're late nights, where I think like we're niche in the fact that we can sort of really appeal to that family-friendly market. So I personally really love playing at the community grounds.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was watching it on TV, and they pan to the sideline, and there's girls, all like little girls, all in their like Eagles jerseys and Freo jerseys. And like for me, like growing up, never seeing that.
Yeah.
And the intimacy and the closeness they have to players
I couldn't agree more.
is something that AFL you can't do. And for young women, it's so important because they're actually like a young girl who like idolizes Swanee because she's been captain can actually like get signed by Swanee. She's not fighting off a million other people, and she can actually have a conversation and feel like she gets to know her role model.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, you're right, it's a different niche, but when you're growing a female sport and you're trying to have connections with young females, I think it's the perfect scene, and you can see that with the amount of like traction it's got with like Auskick.
I couldn't agree more.
Is your demographic just young females though? I feel like netball, there's two sides that get frustrated at times that it's not just being targeted at young kids. It's not about like screaming and all the time. Like adults enjoy it as well. Males enjoy it as well. Like, how great is it after a game to sign young boys singlets and things like that? Is that something you ever thought would be a possibility?
I think I default to always saying like, oh yeah, the young girls are seeing that it is so important for the young girls. But I think like wider societal, how important it is for young boys. But they're going to grow up and they're never going to know AFL to not be played by women. And I think that that's so important. And there's so many things AFL have done really well, like the playing cards. Like so many young boys got the playing cards. They want to get them signed. A guy I work with, his two sons, Dallas and Geordie, like they collect the cards and they want them signed. And like it's just brought so much fanfare to the AFLW, which I think they've done really, really well. And just engaged, another market of young boys who are going to be able to grow up and have pictures of role models of women, which wouldn't have happened 10 years ago.
Yeah, you see that in basketball with Caitlin Clark now. It's like insane. Like,
Yeah.
there'll be like clips of young boys, like, like you shoot like a little paper into the bin, and instead of saying like Kobe, they'll be saying like, oh, Caitlin Clark. And I'm sitting here like, what has happened?
It's changed the world almost. Yeah,
it's changed the world. Like, you're right. Like, I was a little kid. I always liked females because I was a female. I was growing up. But like to have a young boy come down to your footy game, or like saying like your name, like when he's taking a mark, or saying like I want to be a leader like Swanee, it's just like changing like the way gender's seen in sport, which I reckon's insanely
there's
good.
been so many positive stories. Like, there's been so many great stories. Michelle Cowan told us a story about 12 months, or when the Matildas were playing about 12 months ago, that her son and a friend's son were out the back playing soccer, and they were sitting, her and the other mum were just sitting back, and the boys were like, oh, you be Mackenzie Arnold and I'll be Sam Kerr, and they were and that Michelle has told the story to us, and she's like just got emotional because of how far we've come, which is so awesome. Like, there's so many stories like that, and there's so many good things happening because of it. So.
Yeah.
If we look to the future, you guys have 2 games left. You got Cats and then you got Swans.
Yes.
To finish. Finals, we're not sure what's going to happen. Now it's going to really rely on other teams losing and placements and things like that. I've heard from your club constantly this year about aiming for the bullseye and that target of success. What is that target look like now for you guys?
I think now the target's sort of more on a micro level of what it looks like each week, and probably the boring football answer, like what it looks like quarter to quarter. Like, we need to be winning scoreboard pressure now, and like you said, I think we're going to be reliant on a few other results to go our way if we do want to make finals for the first time, but we can't really control that anymore, and all we can do is control what we're going to do each week. So Cats is a must-win game for us. We can't really shy away from that, and Sydney will be as well. So that bullseye that we keep talking about is just going to be week to week, which I think we've done a really good job of doing that all season. I think we finished one game and the girls were like, who do we play next week? Where do we play? So the footy cliche of we're taking it week to week, like, it's not actually a cliche. We're actually living it. There was a period there where we had no idea what day we played next week, who we were playing. We were just so caught up in the process, which has been really enjoyable. It's been a great way to play footy, and we're just going to have to focus on what we do this weekend against Geelong.
How cool has it been having, the likes of Ella Roberts step up this year? Charlie Thomas you mentioned as well, Bella Lewis, like some really, really exciting players stamp their authority, and like, is that exciting for you to sit back and watch them and go, wow, like, these are the future superstars of the game?
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, they're phenomenal young talent. They're like, I love them like they're sisters. I think, like, I talk about them and everyone wants to know what I think about them playing footy, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're good at footy, but God, they're great people. And I think that's where I get the most pride from all of the players, but for them in particular is I just see Ella, like, I see what she's doing on the field, and it's spectacular. Like, it's amazing, and she's a generational talent. But then I'm like, what she's done off the field and her growth and who she is, that makes me the most proud. And I guess what I was saying before about like the stories you tell your kids, I might sit back and tell the kids in 20 years' time, like, how good I got to play with Ella Roberts. But you're probably talking about like how good they were off the field, and the connections you make and how much fun you have together. And the 3 of them in particular, like the growth in their leadership, who they are as people, and the way that they live the values and their passion for the game and their passion to get better, that's what makes me the most proud of them. And whatever they do on the field, like we all love them, whether they play good games or bad games. So, they're phenomenal talents, but even better people.
What's the legacy that you want to leave when you walk away from the sport? What would you want people to say about you as a player or as a person?
Oh, good question. Probably I'll rehash what I just said. Like, I just want people to think about the way that I made them feel. Hopefully, players that have come in and out of the system over the last few years, I've made them feel comfortable and welcome, and push them enough to succeed, and push them in my own way, and hopefully they haven't been too brash or not very nice. But I'm a high performing person, and I want to achieve the ultimate success. So I hope people that come into the system understand that. And they say that I'm a nice person.
When you say you're not a nice person, can you give us some examples?
No, don't let her say that. She was my captain when I was 17. I still think Swanee's one of the best leaders I've ever had. And
Was I nice?
Yeah.
Thank God.
I was a little cocky 17-year-old, and you were still nice
I
to
probably
me.
embraced it. I actually love the fact that the younger generation come in and they're so like, I don't want to use the word cocky. They're just so confident.
There it is.
I love it. It's so, and I wish I had a little bit more of that. And it's just, I embrace that so much. Like I really do love it. But
yeah, don't talk
you were
yourself.
right, Deeks.
I do mean that, and it's not to hype you up, but like I genuinely have been in like many systems, like even with the basketball in Australia, and like some of the top captains I've trained with them. But your relationships and the way you can communicate with people is one of the best I've seen. And when I went over to Davidson and got a little older and not as immature as you probably once knew me, I was like a lot of my
I don't
stuff.
think you've changed.
Yeah, I haven't matured much, but like a lot of that was based off like how I saw you and your interactions. And
Oh, thanks, Deeks.
yeah,
That means a lot.
So little 17-year-old me, you were still a role model then. So don't talk yourself down too much.
How frustrating is it at times, though, that the young kids coming in just want it all now? Like, they
Yeah.
want to be the starting player. They want to be the star. Like, they get so frustrated because they want it all, like, instantly. And, like, trying to communicate, like, it takes time.
It takes
It
time.
happens. Like,
But it's also like Jess Wrench, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, at the start of the year, her goal was to play round one. And my initial response to that was, oh my gosh, like control what you can control. Like all these cliches, like just control what you can control, like just do your best. And like I walked away from hearing that and I was like, hell no, like don't let her be that and let her do, and she did it. And she's played every game since. She didn't play on the weekend because she got an injury, but like it's that kind of attitude and that mindset that gets these girls so far. And it's not the way that probably we were raised, and it's not the sort of mentality that we had in sport when we were younger, because we were sort of in a system where it was more like earn your stripes,
yes.
don't speak until spoken to.
Sit down and wait your turn.
Sit down and wait.
Yeah.
Whereas these girls are coming in, and I love it because it's driving me as an older player to be like, holy shit, I don't know if I can swear, but like, I need to keep up with this. And any doubts that I have, or if I start thinking that I can't keep up, like you're already gone. So you've just got to keep one foot in front. And their mindset is what drives me. So I love it.
Because it's scary because there almost is no rules. It's not like, oh, well, she hasn't played for 5 years, so she's not going to start yet, because that used to be the rule back in the day. There are absolutely no rules anymore.
Rules.
Anyone can play. Yeah. Anyone can get out there and
It's
have a
just
cracking
who's best,
game.
yeah.
Like, it's actually scary, but it's actually really exciting as well, because you see these amazing stories about players who come in as a call-up player, and all of a sudden, like, you've got Oki in your team.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't even on a list and she gets a gig. Like, there are really exciting stories that have been discovered through the AFLW, and kids still want to keep pushing for more.
Yeah, and it's their mindset. Like if I was, Oki's a little bit older, but she's still not very old, but I just couldn't imagine going into a system when I was her age and feeling like I was even remotely going to play. Well, she's come in, we played a practice game in her first week. She was at the club and she played, and she just embraced it, and she was like, yeah, I deserve to be here. I can do this. And I'm like, wow, like it's just so like admirable the way that they come in with so much confidence.
I remember Till was talking about that, because Till's not like, she's like 2 years older than me, but her mindset to me is so different. She's in the like earn your stripes, that kind of stuff, and she's very good. And I'm like, oh no, Till, just like play well.
Yeah, you were the epitome, Deeks, of coming in just being like, I'm here.
I told you. I don't think I've humbled out, but I think I have, like, somewhere in my head.
So you had this confidence before you went to America? It wasn't the American?
Worse.
Oh, really?
It was worse, yeah.
Right.
Like, I rocked up when I was in America, like, you'll hear the older people saying it. It's like, we did, like, our first, like, pickup game, per se. There's, like, kids, and in America, it's very hierarchical because it's, like, seniors, And I think the first game I, like, accidentally, like, was, like, super arrogant, like, hit a 3 in the starter's face, and I was like, and they were like,
That's what's got you so far, is that mindset, yeah.
Oh, it didn't get me a good start off with the girls, but so it's interesting.
Which is what I love, because I think as a leader, things have changed so much. Like, you probably would have felt pressure that you had to take the young kids down a few pegs. Like, you got to learn your lesson, you got to, humble out for a little bit. But like, things have changed. You actually, as the captain of the team, want to encourage girls to get out there and be brave, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's just so infectious, that mindset and that like that peacocky kind of energy. Like, I love it. I think sport needs more of it. And I think in Australian culture, we're probably not as good as probably Americans are. Like, you'd know more, Deeks. But, like, as a fan of American sport, you watch, they're just so, like, confident. And I really enjoy the persona that they have, the arrogance, and like I watch it as like it's almost like an alter ego. Like I wish I had more of that. But the young kids coming in these days, they do have more of it, and they've had
it's just
social
a
media.
Switch. Yeah, it's a switch, and it is like for me because like I'd come off the court and be like, I'm actually not the most confident, so like I'll overanalyze the heck out of my game. But at least when I'm on the court,
from the outside,
everyone can go, oh God, she's missed 7. She's gonna shoot the next one, and even though I'm not actually feeling that, it's like almost like this placebo effect. If you're like emulating confident energy, that it will come off.
It comes.
Yeah, it comes. And I think America is really good at it because they've encouraged it because the fans love it.
Yeah.
Like you see like LaMelo Ball walking down the court being like the most arrogant. We were talking about this and you're like, Rosie, you don't do that, do you? And there's like clips of me online. And I'm like, nah, not me. Not me. I'm a humble one. I wouldn't do that.
I love it. And because like it is, sport is such a confidence thing, and say like, look at Ella on the weekend, like missing a couple of set shots, but you got to get back in and keep kicking them if you want to get back on track. So that confidence really is important in terms of you might not start super hot, but you got to keep pushing in order to finish hot, don't you?
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, it's a funny thing. Like Ella in particular, she has it, but then at times, like she's I wouldn't say she's overly extroverted as well. So she's quite introverted at times. But then she's like a different person. She steps on the field and it's like this absolute like different persona that comes out. And it's just, it's amazing to be part of. She's definitely got it when she steps over the white line, and then she just kind of comes back in and she's just Ella again. So
you like that though?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Well, we've absolutely loved watching you guys play this year. It's been exciting to come to games. It's been great seeing you in a new position and really thriving and learning to be an amateur again. Wish you the best of luck for the last couple of games of the season. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us today. Remember, for all your AFLW news, grab a copy of the West Australian, or you can jump online at thewest.com.au. Rosie, congratulations. You are still queen. I actually ran into Abby Holmes on the weekend at Telethon, and I was singing your praises about
Did you let her know?
I did. I said, Rosie Deegan, my co-host, is beating you in the AFLW tipping at the moment. She looked jealous, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think envy was probably what she was feeling. But, still number 1. Bad week, though.
What'd you get?
A lot of upsets. I only think I got 5 out of 9.
Yeah.
But I'm still holding number 1, guys. So
as we roll into finals, I feel like it just gets more challenging, doesn't it?
I'm feeling quite anxious.
Yeah.
To hold on to my position for sure.
Well, don't forget you can listen and watch this podcast on YouTube Music. Don't forget to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave us a rating and a review and tell your mates. You can hit us up on the email dubya@wanews.com.au, and we'll catch you next week to discuss all the big news from the AFLW. Woo! This podcast is brought to you by Woodside Energy, helping young players develop and grow as the official sponsor of the Fremantle Dockers Next Generation Academy. Woodside Energy, supporting local footy.